Welcome to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. How about that roll on the R? Brooklyn. Welcome, guys. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you all. Um, you know what? Here's a fun fact. When that intro music is playing, I'm sitting here like getting my groove on. Dun, 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 seriously, I would dance to that. If they started playing that in the club, I'd be like, that's my song. Mm, 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 mm. Anyway, glad to have you guys here. Let's see. We got Zelda has reclaimed her place atop the throne. You will not be taking it away from her. And I understand she is looking at a big storm. I hope your power there holds up. Claudia is here. Foxhill Dreams is here. Bernadette H is here. The Trump Reaper. Did I say Foxhill Dreams? Yes, I did. And Cindy C is exhausted from running errands. Carol Glynn is here. Samantha Hawkins, the alien drummer. Alien drummer is here. Roseanne says, Happy Friday. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you guys here. So we got a few things going on this week. And so what we will do is what we do every week. We'll do a quick recap of our biggest stories and what I like to call stories of the day.
Stories of the day.
I always get a kick out of that. Stories of the day. Yeah, so here's our cover image here, and it says Hidden Likes by Elon Musk, Hidden Audio for Justice Alito. So yeah, apparently Elon has taken to hiding our likes. What does that mean? You can like something, but you can't see it? We'll get into that. And why, for crying out loud? So stupid. If it's not broke, don't fix it. God damn it. Speaking of broke, the Supreme Court is broke, and part of the reason it is broke is because dinosaurs like Justice Samuel Alito sitting on the court, making decisions that are maybe guided by things that they shouldn't be guided by. And how do we know this? Because an intrepid reporter went undercover and extracted some admissions from this guy. More on that later. And at long last, Donald Trump has finally converted a once proud Republican Party into a miniature version of North Korea. Oh, yeah. Oh, so great. So great. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, more on that later. But first, make sure if you have not already hit that subscribe button that you do so that when this show begins, you're automatically transported to this magical world of story time. No, that's not what happens, but you will get a notification if you put me on your notifications. And then remember to hit that like button. It looks like a thumbs up. Thumbs up. There we go. Lulu girl, hello, welcome. And I can't argue with you here, Bernadette. Bernadette says Muskrat, that's Elon Musk, is a moron. He's a moron. He's a maroon. All right, what do we got? Oh, so cute. Oh, so cute. So the other day, I believe the other day might have been yesterday. Yesterday, I did shamelessly post this picture of our new kitten, Sunny, for likes. Yes, I did. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed. You know what? I would have done it for no likes because Sunny is just, look at this picture. I mean, it's not even, it is a real picture. There's no filter on this. wifey took this. I asked her, I was like, is that real? Sonny looks like a little toy kitten, like one of those, looks like a beanie baby kitten. So adorable. Anyway, today we took Sonny to the, we took Sonny to the vet. Oh, he's adorable for a little follow up examination. He had to get a booster shot, and he was very brave, mind you. He took that shot not like a man, but like a cat. Took it like a cat, not a kitten, like a cat. Um, and what else? We weighed him. He's just 2.5 pounds right now, and I didn't think he was that heavy. I mean, I lifted him. I would have put money that he was, under 2 pounds. But yeah, um, so he's doing well. We have to wait until he's 16 weeks before he can get his rabies shots. He's adorable. He's got really long legs, and he's. Oh, actually, I do have a treat for you guys. I got a little tiny video. It's not long, but it's just enough. Hold on. Let's do this. one, one more time because it's so quick. He is a bundle of energy and boundless energy and joy. We love him so much. Yeah, I do not regret for 1 second the decision to. Hi, Monique. I see you there, Monique Lee, and Lucy L. I see you too there. And Kerry Simba Bacon. That's a cool name. Is that real? Is that your real name? Because that's cool. You guys, Kerry Simba Bacon. Simba. That's a great name. Where was I? Oh, I was doing this thing here. Okay, so let's put this back up. Boom. So hopefully you guys saw earlier today uh the latest episode of the Defiant podcast. It was episode 2 with my buddy Kenny. And if you look closely, something is amiss with this picture here. Can you see what it is? What's wrong with that picture? Hi, Cecile Kazimi. Can you figure it out yet? Hey, philosophy is here too. All right, I'll just say what it is that I put an age filter there, and so Kenny and I look like 80-year-old peoples. Uh, and wow, what do you know? That was so. Carrie says Simba is her cat's name. Carrie Bacon is her real name. That is cool as hell. All right, so Kenny and I, as our guest today, uh, we had Mother She Wrote, aka Dr. Allison Gill, and she was a fantastic guest. But the reason, I put Kenny and I through that aging filter is because we have a new segment, and that segment is called "I'm Old Enough to Remember When," and it's actually kind of fun. I'm going to share a little bit with you right now. Oh, you hear that? There's Kitten right there. Goodness, she's so pathetic. And I say that to say this: there's a kind of a shorthand, right, on the interwebs, and it's the phrase. It's "I'm old enough to remember when." In fact, you probably heard it so much, you probably heard your mom or your grandmother saying, "I'm old enough to remember," but it's a thing that people say on the internet, mostly on Twitter, probably on
Yeah.
Facebook too, um, where they're pointing out how crazy things are. So Kenny and I have decided we'd like to do a segment called "I'm Old Enough to Remember."
I'm old
Uh,
enough.
Now, for the benefit of our viewing audience, excuse me, our listening audience, I have just put a picture up here of Kenny and myself, and it's a text that says, "I'm old enough to remember." But the real reveal is
He uses the aging filter.
Kenny and I are now appearing as octogenarians, possibly.
Yes.
And that's actually, if that's how I look at age 80, if I'm lucky enough to hit the
Dude,
age of 80, I'm all
you
right
look
with that.
golden. You look golden. I gotta say,
You
and
too.
I say this because I know my parents, at least my mom watches this, because last episode I made a comment when you called me prolific. I said my mom hasn't even called me that, and so she texted me and said, "Hello, my prolific son."
That's
but
it.
I gotta shout that out because in this one I think I look strikingly similar to my grandfather on my mom's side. So I think she'll get a kick out of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. If we turn out the way our age filter versions turn out, we're gonna be
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. I got like an old school Harrison Ford looking kind of thing going. I like it.
I'm old enough. I'm old enough to remember when the Jackson 5 was just the Jackson 1. That's all it was. It was just Jermaine. And 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 when his parents when his father when his father heard him sing, he said, "The kid is not my son."
That was excellent.
And then when his father asked his wife, he said, "Honey, do you have one more in you?" And she said, "Beat it." You can always tell when somebody's a dad when they laugh at their own jokes. I mean, before I did that bit with Kenny, I practiced it with wifey like a few times. Did it by myself, laughed every time. I will laugh at my own jokes if I'm the only person in the room. That's what dads do. And Lulu girl just made my day. She says, "BDD age looks a little like Tom Hanks." I'll take it. I will take it. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And let's see. Let us continue. Where was I? Oh, let's put this back here. Okay, yeah. So the episode that aired today, it aired today by accident because we ran a little overtime in production issues. It's supposed to be yesterday. It happened today. And we were hosted by, we were joined by Allison Gill, who gave her guesstimate on what's going to happen with the Supreme Court's presidential immunity case. So if you get a chance, please check that out. Check it out. And let's see, Rasmus Franch. That's an interesting name there. Rasmus Franch, who says they will smell their own farts. They're the only person in the room. That's funny. Excuse me. So this past week, I watched a documentary, and I don't watch a lot of documentaries, and I especially do not watch any. Actually, I don't watch any documentaries about Hitler or Nazis. It's not my thing. I like action, adventure. I like science fiction. That's my jam. The documentary stuff, especially the heavy stuff. This was heavy, but for some reason I was kind of intrigued. Because on Twitter, and maybe not just Twitter, I'm sure on all the different social medias, people like to make comparisons and contrasts to Donald Trump because let's face it, he does mimic a lot of the things that you will hear or see in a Hitler speech. He does have fascist tendencies. He did say he wants to be a dictator, et cetera, et cetera. I learned in watching this thing that he was not a great student. That he also wanted to be an artist apparently, but he wasn't. He couldn't do faces. He couldn't paint faces. He could paint like buildings and inanimate objects, but not faces. He couldn't do faces. And anyway, it showed from before he was evil until he took his own life. And I know that's not a spoiler alert. You know, if you paid attention to history, you know that he took his own life. I think the only thing that is up for debate was whether or not he shot himself. Some people say that he stuck his head in an oven. But yeah, that's just a part of history. I believe it was a gun, and that's at least that's what they said in the documentary, and it was chilling. It was chilling to watch this. Some things I didn't know was how unhinged he was towards the end. Oh, here was another thing. Here's another parallel was that this guy thought he knew better than the generals. Sound familiar? Sure. He wasn't taking advice from any generals. They were telling him what he should do. And there were some, they took some major losses because he wouldn't listen to anybody else. He didn't trust the other people. So yeah, it was, I thought that was actually was a pretty good documentary, very eye opening. So if you're looking for something like that, I highly recommend. It's called Hitler and the Nazis, Evil on Trial. Oh, that was the other thing. They did show at the same time they're telling the story, they showed what happened at the Nuremberg trials, the International Criminal Court held trials for the Nazis that, you know, survived, and they stood trial. And this was all the way up top, from like the top generals on down to, you know, middle management or so. So yeah, I recommend that. Wifey and I actually just started watching last night a show on Disney. It's called The Acolyte. And it's pretty good, actually. It's this. So this is part of the Star Wars universe, and there's so much stuff in the Star Wars universe. Like you really have to love Star Wars to see all of the things. You don't have to love Star Wars, but this is actually pretty good. It takes place about 100 years, maybe 100 or so years before, you know, the Luke Skywalkers and the Darth Vaders and those folks show up. And it focuses on the Jedis. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Star Wars, Jedi Knights are people who have a connection with the Force. And the Force is like, the Force is this powerful thing that if you can tap into it, you can float, you can move things with your mind, you can do a Jedi mind trick and make people forget that they even saw you, all different kinds of things. Cindy C. Yes. Cindy. Yeah, I did start watching Carnival Row. It's very interesting. The folks with the horns and the fairies, and the murder investigation. Yes, I started watching it. It's good. It's good. So anyway, in this show, The Acolyte, there is a murder investigation that's going on here, in which on the screen, I don't want to spoil anything for you. There's a murder investigation going on, and people in this thing have powers, and the special effects are pretty good. That's all I will say. Very good. Highly recommend. Check it out. And The Boys. Speaking of powers, so The Boys is a show that's on Amazon Prime Video, and it's imagine the Justice League. If you guys are familiar with superheroes, right? Imagine the Justice League if they were a bunch of evil sons of bitches, right? Evil, selfish, uh, perverted. I mean, every possible negative thing. If they viewed human beings as insignificant, hmm? That's the boys. The boys is like the dark side of superheroes and powers, right? And the boys is actually a group of human beings, humans, four or five of them. Butcher. Yeah. It's like five human beings that don't have powers, but they want to hold these superheroes responsible, accountable for their actions. Because these superheroes in this show, they will kill a human being accidentally and won't even think twice about it. They'd be like, "Oops, my bad," and take off and do their thing. They don't care. Don't care. Um, and so this is now season 4 has just begun. It is gory. There's a lot of profanity, but it's also very interesting. And they have tied in some elements of MAGA. So it is political. It is absolutely political. The character on the screen that you see right there, his name is Homelander. And Homelander is like, imagine if Superman was a son of a bitch. Was an evil, dark, psychotic, sociopathic son of a bitch. That's Homelander. Homelander is not as strong as Superman. Like if we were to do like who would win Superman would beat the shit out of this guy, with one hand. No problem whatsoever. But in this universe, Homelander is the Superman character. He's like nobody can mess with him. And I don't want to give up too much, but you kind of go on this journey with this Homelander guy, and right now, you hope somebody takes him out, somebody does him in because he is really evil. He is kind of in this season, he is giving MAGA. He's very much giving MAGA energy, and almost like Donald Trump ish. So yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but this is also a very good show. By now, I'm sure you've seen memes of it. Like you've seen this guy, little gifs or videos of this guy watching a movie. Yeah, it's a good show. Anyway, today, June 14th, is Flag Day. If you were unaware, Flag Day from my childhood, I remember Flag Day, and they used to tell us like you can't wear in my neighborhood, they would tell us you can't wear red and you can't wear blue. And it had something to do with gangs. And I was like, okay, I just didn't wear red, didn't wear blue. I didn't even question it. I was like, all right. But on this date in 1777, the Second Continental Congress adopted the flag of the United States. So it's a day in which we acknowledge our American flag. And I don't need to tell you that nowadays, there are a lot of flags out there. There's only one American flag, but people in MAGA, so some of them, they love their Confederate flags. Some of them love their Trump flags, and they will rock not just one. They'll have several Trump flags on their pickup trucks, and some on their lawns and on their garages. Hello, Chris Passeri, I see you there. You finally got back to watching the boys. Got a lot of catching up to do. Yeah, you'll enjoy it. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one flag. The Biden flag is also the American flag. So happy Flag Day to you guys. Oh, here's some great news. Here's some great news today. So, you guys by now are well aware that there's a scumbag, a walking herpesaur named Alex Jones, who had the audacity to accuse the suffering families of Sandy Hook victims. I don't need to remind you, but I will say anyway. The Sandy Hook massacre was when over 24 souls were silenced by an AR-15 in an elementary school. It was horrific. It was one of probably the most horrible mass shooting I've ever seen in my life. And not only did that not change the conversation, um, but it also gave birth to a lot of heinous, disgusting conspiracy theories. And the worst one was by Alex Jones, where he says that Sandy Hook was a hoax. Was that nobody was killed actually? So not only were these parents suffering because of the loss of their kid, but now there's this jackass telling his millions of viewers that it never happened, and so his asshole viewers are harassing the survivors, the parents, the families, the loved ones. Disgusting. So anyway, long story short, the a lawsuit was filed against him, and they won. They won a judgment of like $1.5 billion. So today we learned that the judge said that they can liquidate all of his personal assets, which is not going to amount to 1.5 billion. It will only amount to tens of millions, which, you know, tens of millions, $1 billion, nothing is going to bring back the loved ones, the children, the poor tiny souls that were snuffed out that day. Nothing will bring that back. But a measure of justice, it will help. I think, it will help those families keep moving on. Oh, look at this. Scott S says, was Turning Point staging an act today, kicking Fuentes out? I didn't even hear about this, so that's news to me. You got one up on me, my friend. So, jackass Alex Jones the other day, I think it was last week, tried to squeeze out a few crocodile tears to make people feel sorry for him. Fuck you, dude, asshole. So he will have to be paying in perpetuity. In perpetuity, he will be paying these families. So that's fucking great. Today, Pope Francis became the first pope, and I love this pope, by the way. He is I love him. He's a wonderful human being. He may not be perfect, but he's the first pope I ever remember saying, "Wow, this is a sweet guy." Anyway, he's the first pope to address the G7. The G7, as you guys know, is that group of world leaders that get together to discuss the new world order. Stop. Sorry, I did that for a random conspiracy theorist that's like, what? Anyway, excuse me. Pope Francis, as Lulu Girl here says, he cares about people. This is the guy who, will bust out, will bust out a stool and wash a homeless beggar's feet in a heartbeat. That's who he is. So let's see. Where was I? I think I was going to show you guys. I wanted to show you a quick clip because he apparently today he not only did he get to meet with President Biden, but he also got to meet with some of the biggest comedians. Uh, some of the biggest comedians in the world. So let me just share my screen real quick. I thought this was kind of cool. It's Jimmy Fallon. It's Chris Rock. There's Stephen Colbert. Oh, is that Conan O'Brien? That might be Conan O'Brien. There's Whoopi Goldberg. Jim Gaffigan. I love this guy, Jim Gaffigan. Actually, this is Jim Gaffigan's video, and those are his kids. So yeah, yeah, that's all I wanted. Just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, here's some good news on the President Biden front. You guys remember the collapse of the bridge in Baltimore? I want to say this was back in March, earlier this year, and no, not Conan, but I think he's there. Okay, that wasn't Conan. Um, the bridge in Baltimore was struck by a container ship, and it just boom, it collapsed, and it was a major catastrophe. And something like this normally would take, I don't know, upwards of a year to clean up and to repair. Well, not only did it not take 11 months, it took 11 weeks. 11 weeks with President Biden and Secretary Buttigieg on the job. That sucker is back up and running. And I'm going to once again go back to to share a video. Do I not have this video? Hmm, there it is. I shared that with you because that's hella impressive. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. That's impressive. 77 days. Now, you guys know I spend plenty of time slamming the other side, slamming Donald Trump, and slamming a lot of the negative stuff that goes on. But when good things like that happen, those have to be highlighted. Those have to be uplifted because I don't think anyone in the Trump administration would have been able to do that. Shit, they couldn't even get an infrastructure deal done in 4 years. They couldn't get anything done. So not only has infrastructure been passed, but projects are already happening all over the place. And something like this, a catastrophe, was remedied in 77 days. Um, let's see. Yeah, I did see. Thank you, Scott, for the troll alert. I did just remedy that. I saw those comments you were referring to. Good eye. Thank you for that. Next up, what do we have? Okay. So this was also kind of a win. I say kind of a win, it's because it's suspect. It's suspect. Yesterday we learned, so we're getting towards the end of that period where the Supreme Court is doling out their decisions, their verdicts on major issues. So yesterday, the issue that they decided was that mifepristone could remain on the market as is. And the reason for this was because the case that was brought did not have standing. It was a hypothetical situation. There was nobody being hurt. There was no victim here. It was just like, but what happens if I don't want to deal with someone who's in this? It was one of those things. So, yeah, 9-0. It was a 9-0 decision. Now, Scott says, uh, anytime you see a 9-0 ruling, very suspect, BDD. Maybe not, but in this case, absolutely, because mind you, 6 of those 9 people were also the same people who overturned Roe v. Wade. So, hi, Aries Wanderer. You do your thing with the sewing there, my friend. So for now, mifepristone stays on the market as is. It's been on the market for a very long time, since the early 2000s. The majority of what I didn't even know is that the majority of abortions that are done are um, are chemical. I think it's something like 63% of abortions are chemically induced. So mifepristone would be part of that equation. And so lots of legal experts are saying, don't hold your breath on this, but the decision was kind of like, well, we don't like this case, but if you bring in something else, okay. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, the case that was decided today was horrendous. Why was it horrendous? Because today's verdict was just insane. They basically over today's decision actually made Donald Trump from 2018 look decent and reasonable, because back in 2018 Donald Trump put a ban on something called bump stocks. And what bump stocks do is it helps to convert a gun that is not a machine gun into a machine gun, or a machine gun like weapon, where you pull the trigger and instead of just firing off one bullet, it fires off multiple bullets. Oh, Chris, man, Chris Passeri, do not. I went through great pains to not spoil anything for people on that show. Anyway, so what Clarence Thomas came out and said was bump firing is a balancing act. The shooter must maintain enough forward pressure to ensure that he will bump the trigger with sufficient force to engage it. But if the shooter applies too much forward pressure, the rifle will not slide back far enough to allow the trigger to reset. Long story short, Clarence Thomas is trying to say that it's not the weapon, but it's the person who's wielding it that makes that deadly action happen. But I'm sorry, that bump stock was used to murder 60 people in the Las Vegas mass shooting. Um, and Justice Sotomayor said it perfectly. She said, "When I see a bird that walks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, I call that bird a duck. A bump stock equipped semi automatic rifle fires automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. Because I, like Congress, call that a machine gun, I respectfully dissent." Simple as that. Okay. So that leads me to the story that came out earlier this week was kind of a surprise. Shouldn't be a surprise because we've already seen Lauren Windsor, who is on the screen here on the left. Lauren Windsor is an intrepid journalist who does these recordings. They're surreptitiously recorded where she pretends to be MAGA. Why? Because she gets people on the right to kind of drop their guard. She says she doesn't come out and say woohoo Trump. She says other things that their code that lets that I believe that we need to get back to a place of godliness, and that is something that she said to Samuel Alito. First of all, it's very impressive that she was able to get not just in the same room with Samuel Alito, but right next to him and get into a conversation with him. Mods, time out the troll for 36,000 seconds. Are they just going to keep coming back? Is that it? So she had a discussion with Samuel Alito and got him to basically to admit that he's not really impartial. And you expect judges to be impartial when they're reviewing a case. When they're making a decision on something, you expect them to leave their own personal prejudices out of their decision making process. But Samuel Alito says, here, secret recording of Supreme Court Justice Alito. Lauren Windsor says, as a Catholic and as someone who really cherishes my faith, I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that's a matter of winning. Justice Alito says, I think you're probably right. On one side or the other is going to win. And then later on in that conversation, he comes out with the whole thing about godliness. He's saying he agrees with her that we need to get back to a place of godliness. And this is concerning. This is very concerning because not only is this court lopsided, but it is broken. It is absolutely broken. And people like to point at us and say, oh, you guys, you talking about expanding the court just because, you're not getting your way. No, that's not it at all, dude. It's that things are supposed to be a certain way and they're not a certain way. These justices, whether it's Clarence Thomas and his $4 million worth of bribes that he's been collecting, Samuel Alito has also gotten bribes, and maybe not as much as 4 million, but he's also gotten bribes. But Samuel Alito is flying flags upside down and has definite opinions that are being affected. His decisions are being colored by his own religious beliefs, and he is not recusing himself from deciding on these cases. And there is some kind of code of ethics, but it's like optional. So that's a problem. These rulings are affecting real people's lives, real people, and not just a dozen or a couple here or there. It's millions of lives. So it's a big problem. It's a major problem, and something got to be done about it. Here's another problem. I don't know if you guys saw this earlier this week. There was something on some of the major stations about the Sinclair Broadcast Group. Now, a few years back, John Oliver had done a great expose on the Sinclair Broadcast Group. Sinclair Broadcast Group is a conglomerate, right? They're like a news conglomerate. They own many different local news stations. So when I'm talking local news stations, I'm not talking about your CNN and your MSNBC. I'm talking about your WABC and your WKOV and all the different local stations. When at 6 o'clock at night and 11 o'clock at night, that's where you go to check out your sports results, your weather forecast. When you find out that woman who lives, 3 blocks over from you got robbed, people in the next town over, they had a flood, et cetera, et cetera. That's where you get your local news. The Sinclair Broadcast Group, every now and then, they get talking points, political talking points, partisan political talking points. Why is this a problem? Because 9 times out of 10, when you're watching your local news, your guard is down. It's like not partially down, it's all the way down. Why? Because it's your local news. You trust these guys. You trust these people. They're in your apartment. They're in your house night after night after night. You don't even think about it. You don't have to think these people are trying to brainwash me. They're trying to give me some kind of secret messaging. These are the people that are giving me the news and telling me about the cute little Easter egg hunt that happened in the park near my house, But there's something more sinister going on with the Sinclair Broadcast Group. The Sinclair Broadcast Group, every now and then, they send out synchronized political talking points that their anchors are required to read verbatim, word for word for word. And I think the best thing I can possibly do, and you got to tell your friends about this because this is some serious shit. When you wonder why your next door neighbor and your coworker are so fucking stupid that they are blindly going with whatever bullshit narrative that they heard or read about on Facebook, this is part of the reason why. And I just need to show you. Let me share my screen, go back here. This is a very serious issue, and it needs more sunlight. Here it is. Here we go. Alex Wagner did a great piece on this.
New developments in a story we covered last night. The newsletter's public notice and popular information first brought to attention anchors at dozens of local TV news stations who've been reading the same controversial script about President Joe Biden based on a widely criticized Wall Street Journal article. Have a listen.
The Wall Street Journal calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden.
The Wall Street Journal is out with reporting calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden.
As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
The issue could be an election decider.
These stations all have one big thing in common. They are owned by the conservative-leaning Sinclair Broadcast Group. And tonight we have a statement from Sinclair denying wrongdoing or bias. Here's a quote. The allegation Sinclair is deceiving its audience or spreading disinformation is outrageous and offensive. Our goal is to provide accurate and timely coverage. Any insinuation otherwise is unfounded and undermines the integrity and hard work of our dedicated teams. Joining me now is Judd Legum, founder and author of the Popular Information newsletter. He's one of the two reporters who broke this story. Judd.
Yeah. So you're probably wondering, well, what BDD? What can I do about this? I'm just, just little old me. Well, you can Google whether or not your local station, the one that you watch at night, 6 p.m. news, 11 p.m. news, you can find out if they're part of the Sinclair Broadcast Group, and then you can write them. You can write them and tell them, I don't like what you guys are doing. Or you can write your member of Congress and tell them, you guys got to come up with a law that can undo the damage that the Sinclair Broadcast Group is doing. It should be illegal for them to do that. It should be illegal. They should be required to put a what's that called? A disclaimer on the screen as they're reading those canned notes and say, this is from our corporate sponsor. We do not agree with this. Something to that effect, right? Something so that you don't think that you don't just take at face value the lies that they are being forced to feed you while you're painting your nails or eating a snack or whatever it is. Do that. Okay. What's next? Let's get into this likes thing. So, when was this? Yesterday? It feels like it's been happening for a long time, but Elon Musk just suddenly and without warning made our likes private. So what does that mean? So if you look at your homepage, right? I'm going to do that now. If you look at your Twitter homepage, you have certain tabs.
My God, look at this headline. Trump says it's a beautiful thing to watch states ban
abortion. What I hate is that
I pledge allegiance.
Oh my God.
To the flag.
Sorry. What I hate is that on my phone, I get notifications across the top of the screen. And so when I click at the top of the screen, I accidentally end up pressing a YouTube video or something. Anyway. Okay. So on your YouTube thing at the very top, you'll see posts, replies, subs, highlights, articles, media, and then likes, right? You can see your likes. You can see, and what by that I mean the things that you yourself have liked. You've clicked on the heart thing and you can see the things that you have liked. But you can't see what other people have liked. Why does that matter? I don't know. I mean, it matters because you can see what the people that you are conversing with, engaging with on this platform, what they approve of, what they endorse, what kinds of things they endorse. And why does that matter? Because sometimes these people are in positions of authority, like Elon Musk, for instance, is in a position of authority. He gets to set policies on this platform. And so what has started to happen is now people are posting little memes and little pictures saying, I liked this tweet, because they're making a point. They're saying, you know what? I'm a grown person. When I like something, I don't care who knows it, because I'm not liking nefarious, nasty shit, right? But there are people on that platform who are liking things that are of questionable value. Um, and this guy here, Ben Goggin, posted this. He says Elon Musk liking tweets defending the use of the term quote unquote colored people and calling the Southern Poverty Law Center an extremist group. Um, so that's one example. And Elon Musk was trying to make an argument and say that, oh, people are weaponizing the ability to look at your likes, right? They say that if you like something, then people will look at that and say, well, he's liking these neo-Nazi tweets. You know, that's bad, right? And yeah, you know, I think you should be accountable for things that you like, and because it's basic, it's saying what's inside your heart. You know, if somebody posts something that is anti-Semitic or is racist, and you're like, oh, I like this, people should know who they're dealing with, shouldn't they? I don't know if people should necessarily lose their jobs for it. I mean, I don't know. Um, I don't want to have to decide that, but what I do know is that you shouldn't take away our likes. What you should do is make it optional. And just the fact that people, if people decide that they want to hide their likes right off the bat, you know, oh, they're like liking some nefarious shit, whether it's, you know, racist stuff or it's porn or whatever, but it should be optional. That's my point. And speaking of nefarious shit, let's move on to Donald Trump visiting Congress yesterday. This is a big deal because it was the first time he had been there in the vicinity since January 6th, since the attacks that happened that caused many members of Congress to hide, to shelter in place for fear of their fucking lives. And they treated him as though he were some goddamn conquering hero. And they treated him like he was a birthday boy. Today is actually his birthday, but you know, they treated him like he was a 5-year-old who just, or a 3-year-old who just took his first poop on the toilet, you know. Oh. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, he made some comment yesterday, and he was questioned. Here. I got to play this for you because my transcribing it is not going to do it justice. This is a grown man, the Speaker of the House. And the Really American tweet says the comments from sycophants like MAGA Mike Johnson sound less like an independent Speaker of the House and more like a terrified person living under the rule of Kim Jong-un. Quote, we had sustained applause. Close quote.
The former president gave his endorsement to this leadership team, and does he want you to continue to be the Speaker after the November election?
He said very complimentary things about all of us. We had sustained applause.
He said very complimentary things about us. We had sustained applause. How is that relevant to anything? Sustained applause. Since when did sustained applause mean a goddamn thing?
He said, I'm doing a very good job. I mean, we're grateful for that. Look, we have to have continuity in leadership. We have to have a plan, and it has to be very carefully executed.
Let me continue while I'm on this thing here. Let's go to that sustained. This was great. This was
real.
This was Lawrence last night, showing no mercy for this shit show. This was his ridicule was directed primarily at Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz stood there applauding, right? Mind you, Ted Cruz is the guy whose wife was disrespected by Donald Trump, whose father was accused of being one of the co-conspirators who killed JFK. And he still went to go and kowtow and bow down to Trump. And now he's reduced to applauding nonstop, even as Trump barely notices him. Check this out.
There was real suspense then going into the 2016 Republican convention about whether or not the deeply offended Senator Cruz would even endorse Donald Trump, the Republican nominee for president. But Senator Cruz looked into his heart and found nothing. Nothing that would prevent him from endorsing the presidential candidate who attacked and lied about his father and attacked and lied about his wife. And there was Senator Cruz today in that lineup of utterly egoless Republican men craving their moment with Donald Trump, craving a possible handshake or a possible pat on the back or a wink or a smile, a glance, anything from Donald Trump. Watch now, Senator Cruz crave that moment after Donald Trump passes by Senator Cruz and pays more attention to other, more obscure people in the room. He kept clapping after Donald Trump left the room. After the door was closed, did he think Donald Trump could see through the door?
It's the most surrealistic shit, I think, that I've seen in a very long time. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. These are United States senators. These are grown people. These are people who have children and houses and mortgages and, and people who used to have a spine, people who used to have a conscience, character, nothing, just an empty shell. Like, I'm sure you've seen video and pictures of people, applauding like that for Kim Jong-un. It's weird. It's weird. Not only is it weird because of who he is, but it's weirder because he's a goddamn convicted felon. He is an adjudicated rapist. He is not a good person. But he is a person whom it seems like the majority of the deluded Republican Party is going with. And it's sad. It's sad, but I refuse to, when I see this, I'm not letting it slide. I'm not letting any of this fucking bullshit slide. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people just treating all this shit like it's normal. It's not normal. And I'm going to point it out every chance I get. Every fucking chance I get between now and November 5th, I'm going to be pointing it out. It needs to be said. And I don't know if you can hear how many times I've dropped the F-bomb tonight. That's how frustrated I am. Um, it sometimes it feels like we're taking crazy pills, like, or you're watching a movie and people can't see the monster right behind. Turn around! You're yelling at the screen. Turn around! He's right behind you. Don't go in that room. But nobody is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And this year, that means something very different than in past years. This means, actually getting out there, making phone calls, volunteering to register people, uh, talking to people that relatives, et cetera, and asking them, please, look, I never asked you ever. Say this. I've never before in my life ever asked you to vote for one person, ever. I've never asked you to vote for somebody. I'm asking you now. Please vote for Joe Biden. This is the only time I will ever ask you to vote for somebody, but we cannot allow Donald Trump to get back into the office of the president of the United States, because that will be the last time we have a free election. Oh, come on. We just, what are you talking about? That sounds like a whole lot of, hyperbole. You're exaggerating. You're being a drama queen. We came this close to losing our democracy before. He tried to flip the votes. He tried to throw a bunch of people's votes out. He was unable to. There were certain guardrails in place that there won't be if he gets back into office, because he's got this thing called Project 2025. Project 2025 means that he is going to get rid of all of the lifelong people who have served our government, regardless of party affiliation. These are people who are public servants. He's going to get rid of anybody who will not swear an oath of loyalty to him and him alone. And he doesn't care about, fixing things and improving lives for Americans. He cares about retribution. He cares about revenge. That's it. So for me, it's easy peasy. It's an easy decision to make. And I'm going to be busy between now and November 5th, and I hope you guys will be busy with me too. And my Zelda, my friend, I'm just now seeing. Thank you so much for the kind donation. I missed that earlier in the show, but thank you for that, my friend. I appreciate you and your generosity. And with that said, my friends, it's Friday night, and you know what that means for me, for Brooklyn Dead. It means it's pizza and movie night. My tummy is growling now. Let's see what we got here. Valerie G is saying Project 2025 is scary. Vote blue. The Trump Reaper says he thinks he is a god. So do his worshipers. And Trump Reaper, I did see your question. When is the sequel dropping? It's dropping this summer. I can't say exactly when because I'm struggling to get shit done, but it is dropping this summer. Chris Passeri says Trump tried to cheat in 2020. He still lost. Odds are he'll try again. Absolutely. We already know that he plans to say he won even if and when he loses. What I'm seeing is a lot of movement on the right, people that are moderate Republicans who say, no, I'm not voting for him. See a lot of this. I can't see how that's sustainable, how you lose that much moderate support. In the primaries, you got 20% of people voting for Nikki Haley, who isn't even running anymore. There's a lot of people on the right who don't want him as their nominee. They don't want him. Before he was convicted, they didn't want him. Call that the silent majority. But he does not have a commanding lead of his party. And sure, President Biden is a little older now than he was 4 years ago. He's 4 years older. he's still head and shoulders better than Donald Trump. I would take him right now. If he was 15 years older, I would take him over Donald Trump right now. Thankfully, I don't have to. I don't have to take a 96-year-old Joe Biden. I'm just saying, excuse me, it's an easy choice for me. Project 2025 is 920 pages of insanity. Tracy, hey, Nurse Mitch, Tracy M says, it feels like a George Orwell novel. Lucy L says, lots of independents are not voting for him. Thank you for reminding me of that. That is an important note, too. Lula Girl, by the way, thank you for that sticker. Appreciate you. Cindy C. Cindy C says, I did the best I could today. I told my friend's daughter, who is in college in Texas, she needs to contact the election office here and have her ballot sent. They are all MAGA, but I'm in heavy blue. Way to go, Cindy. Wilbur McCarthy says they think black people will vote for him because of the felonies. That is how racist Republicans are. Yeah, that just ticks me off. Like when he says that black people can relate to him because of the mugshot. Like, motherfucker, do you think all of us are felons? Do you think all of us have some kind of rap sheet? Unreal. And I seriously hope I hope he pays a political price for that. I feel like a lot of the stuff that he says and does is smoke and mirrors. He does that sort of, it's almost like a Jedi mind trick with the public. If you're dull-minded, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but if you're not paying attention, if your defenses are down, some of the stuff that he says might kind of sort of make sense. And that's where he gets people. He gets people where they're not paying attention, where they're too busy, but it kind of sounds right. Some of the most racist shit he says, like, 2 days from now is the anniversary of his escalator speech when he says, about the Mexican people, they're sending murderers, they're criminals, they're bringing drugs and crime, and they're rapists, they're not sending their best people. He made that speech and he was basically sending, it wasn't a dog whistle, it was a bullhorn. He was saying, I'm going to send those people out of here, or I'm going to keep those people out of here. Never mind the fact that those people are not even close to being mostly responsible for the crimes that are happening here in America. Most of the people who come here as immigrants are law-abiding citizens. Most, I'm not saying all, but I will say that a much, much, much lower percentage of the immigrants and migrants that come here, a much smaller percentage are responsible for the most heinous crimes that happen here. The majority of those crimes are committed by people who were born and raised here in the U.S. of A. A good point, Carol. Carol says they aren't sending anyone. For fuck's sake. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, you guys, that's all I got for you for tonight. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. So yeah, guys, thank you for joining me for another episode. Make sure you check out next, if you haven't already seen this week's episode of the Defiant podcast or listened to it, check it out. It was great. Dr. Allison Gill was great. And as you know, you may or may not know, I am continuing the You Raggedy Bish on that show with my buddy Kenny. We have a great time, so please check it out. So until next week, I look forward to seeing you here, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.